Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. I hope you've had a great weekend. I took a little time off yesterday just to hang out with my family, but I wanted to get part 2 of the first day of testimony in the Jose Ibarra trial. He is accused of murdering 22-year-old student Laken Riley in Georgia. We pick back up with Special Agent Daniela Stewart. She is a crime scene specialist with the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. She was the one who did all of the crime scene photography there on scene, as well as some sketches. She explains that the day that Laken was killed and found, it was windy out, and you have to take that into account when you're processing evidence because leaves could have shifted and covered up evidence. She documented the other AirPod, blood-stained rocks with hair on them. There was a section of a blood-stained tree, Laken's jacket, her sports bra, her cell phone, and they show an overall trail photo and an overall photo close to where her body was found. They did not show this on the live stream, but they did show injuries to her head and torso. She had injuries below her left hip, her shoes, a close-up of her face, and injuries to the left side of her head, her watch, her hands, and her fingernails. That AirPod was found not far off the trail. If you remember, her friends found the other AirPod, which was on the trail. When they first started showing photos that this witness took, they did accidentally air a photo of Laken's body. That's brought up at the end of the hearing, and we'll get into that in just a bit. The witness noticed there were leaves, blood, and dirt tangled in Laken's hair. They brought the bloodstained rocks into the court, as well as a section of the bloodstained tree. They also bring in her iPhone and her clothing to show the judge. Just a reminder, this is a bench trial. There is no jury. Only the judge is the one hearing the evidence. They get into where the thumbprint was found on the iPhone, and the witness agrees this is in the general area of where you would hang up a call. The phone, by the way, was not found close to her body. The next day, on February 23rd, around 9 p.m., she arrived at the police station to take photos of the defendant to document his injuries to his hands, his neck, his arm, as well as his back. On cross, the defense asked if when she arrived on scene, Laken's body had already been removed. The witness says yes. She's asked, were you aware some of the officers grabbed her ankles and others grabbed her arms to move her? Yes. When you photographed the rocks, were they on top of the leaves or below? She said the rocks were above the leaves and there was no depression in the ground like they had been there for any length of time. They asked, you say you didn't see other rocks in the area, but you didn't use a rake on scene, did you? The witness said she actually got on her hands and knees trying to find additional evidence, again, because it was windy that day, and she wanted to be sure that if leaves were blown around, it hadn't covered up potential evidence. They asked how big of an area did she crawl around looking for other evidence. She searched within where her evidence markers were. Other officers branched out and searched in different directions and deeper into the wooded area. She's asked about the close-up photo of Laken's fingernails, and the defense asked if those nails were clipped on scene. The witness says that was done at autopsy, and she clarifies that the photos that were shown to the judge were before they were clipped. The defense asks about a note in her report about an irregular-shaped bloodstain on Laken's ankle and asked if she found a corresponding wound. The witness said no, but it could be that it happened when she was moved by law enforcement, or it could have been something that happened during the incident, but in her professional opinion, it looked to be contact and not from an actual injury on Laken's ankle. They move on to that latent print on Laken's iPhone and say, you say it was on the bottom of the screen where you would swipe up to unlock. You agree that some phones have different screen sizes, but the marker to hang up the phone isn't on the very bottom of the screen. Would you agree it's about an inch between the bottom and the red button where you would hang up? The witness says she would have to measure. She's not sure. They ask if the witness searched Laken's shoe for her house key. She said she did because some runners will put that in their shoe. However, they never found Laken's house key. They move on to the photos of Jose's injuries, and the defense asks if she saw any injuries on his legs. The witness says no. Talking about the DNA that was collected from Jose after he was arrested, she got buccal swabs from the cheeks, and a buccal swab is where they go in with a long Q-tip looking thing and swab the insides of the cheeks to get DNA. She tried to clip Jose's fingernails, but the witness says his nails were extremely short. They did try to swab under those fingernails. She does not know if those were sent to the lab. The defense asks if some of the scratch injuries on Jose were lighter and others darker. She said yes. The state comes back up and asks the witness to measure 64 feet and 11 inches. That is the distance that Laken was off that trail. They each hold one end of the measuring tape, and the state says it's an additional 14 feet from that being fully extended, and the witness says yes. The next witness, Zachary Davis, he's an officer with the Athens-Clarke County Police Department. He's familiar with that intramural area where Laken was running, and when he got on shift at 6 p.m. the day of Laken's murder, they were updated on what was going on. They had a grainy photo of a suspicious person from that morning from the Peeping Tom incident before the murder. The witness was in the area just looking for anything to go off of. The building with the Peeping Tom incident, by the way, was walking distance to where Laken's body was found. He said in the past he had pursued a subject on the path from the building where the Peeping Tom incident was to the apartment complex where Jose lived. He said it was the perfect cut through, and just with past experience, he knew people would discard things in dumpsters they didn't want found. So he started looking through the dumpsters in the complex. He did notice the trash had been picked up recently. He saw 3 dumpsters. There were 2 for trash and 1 for recycling. He noticed that the sides of the recycling dumpster were welded shut, so he climbed on top and looked inside and saw that dark blue jacket. He saw there were leaves on the jacket, and at that point, he called the University of Georgia investigators, and they came out to collect the jacket. He volunteered to go inside the dumpster to retrieve it, and when he was in there, he found hair wrapped around the buttons. There were tears on the front of the jacket as well as reddish-brown stains that he suspected to be blood. The hairs were long and were wrapped around a button that was used to close a pocket on the front of that jacket. They admit his body cam footage from 9:58 p.m. bringing the jacket from the dumpster out. He is given a brown bag from someone outside the dumpster to put it in. On cross, the defense says you're talking to other officers outside before you put the jacket in the bag. And one thing we hear you say is the jacket is torn. Do you recall how many tears there were? The witness said he didn't want to manipulate that jacket any more than he needed to and just described what he could see before he bagged it. The next witness, Lieutenant Daniel Saunders, he is with the University of Georgia Police Department. He was a sergeant in investigations, and at the time, his duty was to process crime scenes. On the way to the crime scene, he saw a white styrofoam cup just off the main road leading to the crime scene. He said it stood out because this is usually a very clean area. So he took a photo. There was still liquid inside, so when he started to process that cup, he poured the liquid in a separate container and then took that cup into custody. He learned that GBI was going to process the crime scene, so he stopped what he was doing and helped Special Agent Daniela Stewart as she documented the crime scene. He helped her by putting evidence in collection bags and also processing evidence. The evidence from there was taken to the GBI lab. He collected Laken's Garmin watch and also was the one that bagged Laken's hands on scene. He lifted the latent print from her iPhone, and those were given to a latent print examiner with the Athens-Clarke County Police Department because he was a local fingerprint examiner. The crime scene was completed at 8:45 p.m. on the day of the murder. He said they all left closer to 9. But on the way back to the station, he got notification that the previous witness that just testified had found that jacket in the dumpster, so he responded to the apartment complex. They found the neighbor with the Ring camera showing the jacket being discarded in the dumpster and saw that the person also discarded something in the bushes. So they went to check, and the witness was the one who found the black gloves that were wrapped together in a ball. Those were turned into the GBI lab once packaged. He also assisted with photographing Jose, and he was the one that collected his DNA on February 23rd. He also had a bag belonging to Jose's brother Diego and photographed the contents that were inside. On cross, he's asked what time he got to the scene, and the witness said around 12:57 p.m. The only things he collected outside the presence of the crime scene tech was that styrofoam cup, and later that night, the jacket and gloves. The fingerprint on the phone had a reddish liquid substance. He did not know at the time whether or not that was blood. He's asked what he means when he said he processed the print, and he said he used fingerprint powder to enhance that print. The defense asked if the swabs on the phone were processed for DNA. The witness says he knows it was sent to the GBI lab. The defense asks why he puts on gloves there in court to handle the evidence. The witness says DNA can be transferred by touch, and they do this to avoid any cross-contamination. The defense says that part of the jacket had been cut for samples and asked the witness to clarify the area is not the tear that he saw when processing the jacket. The witness agrees that that cut that was used for testing part of that jacket was not there when it was found. He's asked about the tear in the gloves and how they were processed before being sent to the lab where they were cut up. He says when they found them, they were all together in a ball. He did not pull those apart and didn't document the condition of any holes or defects in the gloves. Later on, the lab did cut the gloves for samples, but he didn't do anything more than just taking them into custody and processing them. They ask about him collecting DNA from Jose. He said that he only collected it from Jose and nobody else that they tested to eliminate as suspects. She asked about the DNA swabs from under Jose's fingernails, and he says he knows for a fact they were not tested. But if you remember, the previous witness said that his fingernails were extremely short. Could be maybe they just felt like they didn't get enough. The defense moves on to his brother Diego's bag, as well as the gloves that were in the bag. They were not the same kind of gloves as what was found in the bushes. He did look to see if there were any bloodstains on the gloves, and he did not see anything that caused him to have those sent off to the lab. He did a visual inspection on those gloves, but didn't see anything. The defense asked if he used any chemicals, and he said no. On redirect, the state just reiterates that the witness saw nothing from Diego's bag that caused him to feel anything needed to be tested further, and the witness agrees. The last witness of the day is Detective Preston Norris. He is the lead investigator in this case, and he responded to the crime scene around 1 p.m. He assisted the lead evidence custodian and Daniela Stewart from GBI with that crime scene. He helped find Laken's phone. He said the entire day they couldn't find it, even though it was still pinging in the area on the Find My iPhone app. At first, they thought it was possibly under her body. So once she was removed from the area, they looked and it wasn't there. He started a periodic search in the area, meaning he worked in a circle around 25 feet around where Laken's body was found. He was shining his flashlight to see if he could get that to reflect, and about 25 minutes after he started looking, he did find it. They play his body cam video, and you hear the witness say that he almost stepped on the phone. He was notified about officers finding that jacket, so he later responded to the apartment complex. He looked inside and saw the jacket and told them to collect it. He said as he was getting down from looking inside the dumpster, that's when he saw that ring cam pointed right at him. He talked to the owner and asked if he could see the footage. They show all of that dumpster footage that we had in the last episode. You see him discarding the jacket in that dumpster, then discarding the gloves in the bush. Another video of him coming out in that red shirt with the bag that was never found. due to the fact that that garbage had been emptied that day. On cross, the defense asks if the police department owned the cameras. No. Aside from what you were told by the owners of the cameras, do you know how these cameras work? He says no. They ask about him investigating the use of Jose's phone. He did. And he also learned that someone else had used the phone in October of 2023, and 2 other individuals did use that phone at some point as well. But on a redirect, the state asks, how long is it from October 2023 to the murder? And the witness says 4 months. So that was it for testimony, but there was an issue after court that the defense brought up with the judge. And they bring up the camera that is on a swivel, which is pointed right at the defense table, recording the proceedings that we see on the stream. She also says there is a microphone pointed at their table, and she asked that Monday the media either take it down or at least remove the microphone. She said this trial is not about giving media the best shot of Jose. She also says the first photo of Laken's body made it on the live stream, and it did. I hate when those things pop up like that. It's just, you're not ready for it. The judge asked if it was a photo or a video, and it was a photo. She said she brings that up to say that their fears and objections about the media coverage in the courtroom are not based on nothing. It's based on the past with other hearings, and they'll renew their objections or at least ask the media to redo the setup there. The state says they support the defense on their position. The judge says his thought is to remove that camera directly pointed at the defense table and the microphone setup. He says if people were in the gallery watching this trial, they would not see what this camera is showing. He's going to think about it over the weekend, but it sounds like he may go back to one general camera that just shows everything. Court resumes tomorrow morning at 8:30. Just a reminder, I'll be live streaming all day, so come in and chat with us. I'll do a recap again tomorrow of the day's testimony in an hour or less. All right, that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.